Welcome to Inside Albania with me, Alice Taylor. This week I'm talking to Patricia Graham, an activist in Malta, who in an exclusive for Euronews Albania sheds light on a visa scam impacting Albanians who go there for work. I'm also joined by Jin Marku, the head of the Committee on Nationwide Reconciliation in Albania, an organisation that works to resolve instances of blood feuds between families in the country. For those that don't know, blood feuds are the social obligation to kill an offender or a member of their family in order to salvage one's honour. This has its roots in the ancient feudal system that once ruled large swathes of the country. But in 2025, it's a controversial topic that many deny the existence of. But I have heard that actually this is a very real issue impacting hundreds, if not thousands of people in the north of the country. Let's find out more. Haide Memoa. Welcome to Inside Albania. Patricia, thank you for joining me online. Now, what is happening in Malta? I lived there for 10 years. That's how we know each other. And from what I understand, there are individuals from countries, including Albania, and they are being recruited for work in Malta, or they're applying for positions in Malta through sort of recruitment agencies or other routes. And they're being told that for a fee, they can get a job, their work permit, and even sometimes a home as well. But this is not always the case. Can you walk me through this scam and sort of what's happening to these people?
Okay, so it is a scam, Alice. And the first thing I really have to say is if people are thinking about migrating to Malta for work, I really, really urge them to look on their government website and look for registered recruiters. At the moment, you're absolutely right. There are recruiters who are charging people anything from 5,000 to 11,000 euros to come and work in Malta. Now, the scam comes in because they are being told that they will recoup that money very quickly. Mm-hmm. And Alice, some of these people don't even earn that money in a year, so it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. As you know, when you left, we'd started this building frenzy, and it just hasn't stopped. But they're not building homes for the workers that they need. They're building homes for the rich, for the moneyed people. Mm-hmm. So when you're offered accommodation, you're looking at a bed in a room with, well, until recently, it could have been up to 12 people.
Yeah, I saw even more than that, sometimes. They were like selling for 200, 300 euros, a single bed and like a bedside cabinet in a room with 12, 15 people. And then maybe this apartment had 3 rooms like this. So you've got like 30 people and 1 toilet and all highly illegal and a health risk and everything. Sorry, continue.
And beds in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That's how it was. But the government have dealt with that. Mm-hmm. And it's, I believe it's now 2 people per room. Okay. But of course,
there's abuse.
That's crippled the income, so they're looking for income from elsewhere. And the problem you have when you come with a recruiter is that part of your visa, you actually have to show that you either have hotel accommodation for that period of time, or you need to have a lease. Mm-hmm. And as somebody posts on Facebook, I need an apartment, blah, 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 they will get hit by dozens and dozens and dozens of people who are not, they're not good people.
Yeah.
I've had people in the last 2 weeks turn up to take a room that they've paid their deposit for, and that room doesn't exist.
Wow.
So they have to be careful.
So people are paying like 5,000, 6,000 euros for a job and a house, and then they turn up and it doesn't exist, or it's been rented to someone else, or the landlord has no idea who they are, but they've lost that money.
They've
Wow.
lost it completely.
Wow.
They've got nowhere to go when that happens. They can report it to the police, but the police will say it's a civil matter, so that's not going to happen. It's like everything else, Alice. There was no planning and preparation made for the influx of foreign workers into this country. And it's very sad because there are the departments, but it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And it's not only you get here and find you don't have an apartment, you can get here and find out you don't even have a job.
Wow.
So you paid all that money, you get here, the recruiter's gotten his cut, the employer in Malta has gotten their cut, and you have no job.
So
There was never intention for it.
So they hire you on paper, basically. They hire these people, you know, just to take the money and to get the visa, and then when they get there, they disappear? Or is it that they were never really employed in the first place? How does it work? How does that aspect work?
A little bit of everything that you just said. I've never quite understood why employers they take the recruiter's money, okay? They go through the process with the employee. They go as far as having the residency card, the work permit issued, and then they terminate them.
And then
as soon as that card is issued.
Then they have to leave the country, don't they? Or
10 days. 10 days is a bit of a strange point because it's really down to Identity Malta. You can have 10 days to find another application and get that application in. But this is where our illegal immigrants are coming from, and they're picked up 20 to 30 every week.
wow. This is crazy.
And they will be back.
So let's say I'm coming from Albania, I've paid 8,000, let's say. I've paid 8,000 euros for a job and a house. I get there, my house doesn't exist. Or if I'm lucky, I've got a bed in an apartment with God knows how many other people, because I've heard that it's still happening, this, even though it's not supposed to. And then I go to my job and the employer says, oh, sorry, we've decided to terminate your employment. I have 10 days then to go through an interview process and get a new job and do all of the paperwork myself in a country I've just arrived in. Or I have to leave, or I can stay illegally and work in the black. But then I guess then I'm at danger of being exploited then as well, because I have no rights.
No rights. And the employers are abusing these people royally.
Yeah.
We're at the end of summer now, and I know for a fact that there are some employers who will, in fact, phone immigration themselves and report illegal workers.
Just to get rid of them?
Yep. The season's over.
So they employ these people illegally, and then when there's no more work, to get rid of them quickly without, you know, the danger of having them come and burn down their restaurant after hours or something, they just call them and get them deported. Yep. Meanwhile, the person is 10 grand out of pocket. This is really... Yeah. But the government knows this is going on?
The government are not interested. The government issued new guidelines yesterday, which look very good on paper. A lot of effort has gone into this, these recommendations that are now up for public consultation. A lot of work has gone into there. But Alice, if you've lived here as long as I have, you can see that these recommendations that are being put forward to the public haven't been thought through by speaking to people like me or the other NGOs. They have no clue what is going on outside, and they're not interested. They are just not interested.
when I was in Malta, I was there recently, but I was also there sort of 18 months ago, and I made a little mini documentary on members of the Albanian community. And I was asking them, how many Albanians are there here? And they said, well, on paper, about 10,000, but the real number is much, much higher, because there are a lot of people there who are working illegally in the black. And I wanted to ask you what your experience has been in helping Albanian people, what sort of problems you've encountered that they're having, and just the situation for Albanians there at the moment.
As soon as they message you, because you know on Facebook they have this wonderful message system where you have to keep checking the other box. It sounds strange to say it, Alice, but you can actually hear the despair in their messages. I don't know what to do. I sold my land to come here. I did this. I am the breadwinner for my family. And if I can do anything, Alice, I will. I will, take them to immigration myself and try and sort things out. But a lot of them end up in the hands of, especially if they post on social media that they need help, a lot of them end up paying another fortune to lawyers to sort it out, which is wrong, because the government should be sorting this out. And I think, in fact, I know that there are people in some of these entities who desperately want this abuse to stop. But if their bosses are not listening to them, Alice, it's not going to stop. They're not listening to the people, they're not listening to their managers, their CEOs, their directors. They're doing their own thing.
But I imagine as well, and it is what you said, Albanian people, potentially they're borrowing money to pay these fees, for 5,000, 7,000. I mean, that's a year's salary for some people. And you're exactly right. They are supporting an entire family network back home in many cases. Albania is a country which survives on remittances from abroad. So the fact that these people are being ripped off and scammed once they get to Malta is really horrific, like the knock-on effect that has. But I'm wondering, they've arrived in Malta. They don't have any money now. They've been scammed. They maybe don't speak English particularly well. Are they hesitant to sort of come forward? Is there an element of fear among the people that you're working with?
I think some of them think I have a magic wand, and that by just telling me about the situation, that somehow I can resolve it. But I can only resolve it if they are brave enough to come forward.
Yeah.
Now, we've just run a petition on the government website to get rid of the 10 days to find a new job, okay? We actually managed to get just under 3,000 signatures. Alice, we should have had 100,000 signatures. But these people are terrified that as soon as they put their residency card publicly, that they're somehow painted. They can be found.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I'm lying when I say that my last Albanian person that messaged me, his employer had basically said, you do this, you do that, you do the next thing, or I will have you deported. They believe it.
Yeah. But I think
and sadly, Alice,
this comes from, they don't, maybe they have family in Malta who are in a better situation. Maybe they have family back home. They're worried about repercussions, because I'd imagine that some of these recruiters are Albanian themselves or are working in country to recruit them. So, and this is something we see in Albania, a mentality of maybe they don't want to rock the boat too much. They don't want to be public in calling someone out or necessarily calling out, being a whistleblower, because they fear the retribution against them, their family. Will I be deported? Will my family be deported? Will I be banned from entering? Will they do something to my family back home? Particularly if they've borrowed money or they're in debt to a recruiter, because we saw the situation when Albanians were traveling to the UK on dinghies. These recruiters, people were taking out debt with them, and then they were turning up in the UK 10 grand in debt and being told they had to work in a greenhouse to pay it off.
Yes.
You know, so I think they're well aware of the horror stories and how, let's call it what it is. It's essentially a form of trafficking, you know. This is something that holds them back. And yeah, I guess, what would you say to Albanians looking to come to Malta? There's a huge pull factor for Malta because there are a lot of Albanians there. Culturally, I think it's quite similar in lots of ways to Albania. Like Malta and Albania are very similar. But to people looking to want to go there, what advice can you give them before they go?
Before they go, they need to actually hit the serious social media pages, and I think you know the ones that I'm meaning. I don't know if I can say
them. Yes, please do.
Expats Malta. We get them in Expats Malta and in my groups after they are in trouble. We need them to be reading these groups before they get here. And they don't need to go with a recruiter. They need to go directly. Go to some of the job pages.
Yes.
I've even set up a job page in 2022, and it just rocks through with jobs. Apply directly. Avoid paying any money for a job in Malta, and ask questions. There's Albanian groups, there's Indian groups, Bangladeshi groups, and Nepalese, and they really, really help each other. But be careful, be so careful of trusting your fellow Albanian. Because if they come through the system, and this upsets me so much, because the likes of Serbians, of Indians, I've actually helped Alice, and I now find out that they're ripping off their fellow man just as they were ripped off.
Yeah, that's terrible.
You know, it's money. It's all to do with money.
Another point.
And if I can help any of them, I will.
Another point as well, when looking for a house or accommodation, do not hand over any money via bank transfer online without seeing the property, without working with a licensed real estate agency, without proper documents.
Physically seeing the place. Don't trust a video. Physically seeing the place. And, you know, there's lots of people.
You need a contract as well before.
You need your contract as well, and that's in depth. One of the recommendations that came out yesterday, Alice, was that the government want prospective workers coming to Malta to have a knowledge of Maltese culture and integration and all the rest of it. What the government actually need to be doing is issuing guidelines to every single one of these countries regarding housing.
Yes.
How you can be ripped off. What to do if you end up in a situation where you're not being paid, or if your tax is not being paid, or you're not covered with Social Security. That's the kind of guidelines the government should be giving these people.
Yes.
But if they're determined to come to Malta and they find a house, they go to one of their groups and say, can somebody just check this place out for me?
Yes, yes.
I do it all the time. I go and see apartments all the time just to make sure that they're real. There's always somebody that'll pass by a door.
Yeah, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
It is.
I remember actually when I first lived there, I was with an employer for a year and a half, and they were giving me proper looking pay slips every month, but afterwards I found out that they were fake pay slips and they hadn't been paying my social security for a year and a half. And this is a big company that's still operating on the island. So yeah, screw you, basically.
What would have happened if you'd gotten sick and you'd taken one of these pay slips to Mater Dei? You're the person that would have ended up in trouble and arrested.
Yeah. And actually,
because if you end up with documents, they will arrest you and not the person that gave you them.
Let's be clear. If you're in Malta and you are working illegally, You do not have a contract. You do not pay or your employer doesn't pay social security. You cannot send your children to school. You cannot access healthcare. You cannot access any healthcare. You cannot access welfare. You wouldn't be able to rent an apartment, a legitimate apartment properly. A lot of landlords will ask, you know, if you're employed for proof, blah, blah, blah. You won't be able to open a bank account. Life is very, very difficult. And you are at risk of being exploited in terms of the minimum wage and the hours you work and being terminated or deported or blackmailed or trafficked as well, let's be honest, for various forms of trafficking. So if you're going to go, do it properly, do it legally.
And Alice, if there are Albanians in Malta right now who are illegal and living a life of hell, tell them to find me, because they can be repatriated. There is a voluntary repatriation. They don't do it to themselves.
Yes.
I know how some of these people are living.
Yes.
Don't do it. Take the bull by the horns, get help, admit you've done wrong, and let's get you sorted.
Yes.
Let's get you.
Patricia, what are the names? What are the names of your Facebook groups? Just so people know.
You've got the EU Nationals Advisory. You've got Expats Malta. These are the main groups that hit them and ask questions. People ask hundreds of questions every day. There's always somebody, and double check everything you're doing. Do your homework and listen. They will get to know the people that are giving them the facts and not the fiction.
And we're going to put your name on the screen, but for anybody watching who is in a difficult situation in Malta or who has lost money, is facing problems, you can contact me and I can connect you with Patricia if you can't find her on Facebook. Okay, Patricia, thank you very much.
Thank you, my dear, and take care.
Bye-bye.